Hello, welcome everybody. This is Neil with Portal to Ascension. Hello to everybody out there on YouTube and the Portal to Ascension podcast, Portal to Ascension Radio. Excited to be back with you guys here again today with another beautiful individual that is just sharing her heart, wisdom, and modalities that she's acquired in order for us to basically step more into our truest potential and our highest potential. As you know, that is the underlying mission of Portal to Ascension, is really why we go through all these topics. Why do we talk about ancient history? Why do we talk about extraterrestrials? Why do we piece pieces of the puzzle back together and speak about human consciousness? Well, it's really about uplifting humanity so that we can usher in this age where we can be the caretakers and the stewards of this planet and ourselves and have connection to each other. So I've been going live, as you guys know, with multiple speakers over the last few days. We have a lot more people coming up in store for you over the next few months. Every 2 days, there's going to be at least 2 to 3. Tomorrow, there's 3 different interviews on the YouTube channel. So definitely stay tuned and check all of them out. And today, again, we are with Maya the Shaman. And I'm extremely excited to be introducing to Maya. I connected with Maya through Radha, who is the founder of Radha Publishing House. And the way before I get into her official bio here, the way we connected was that Maya was putting together a book we're going to speak about it. There's 2 books we're going to be talking about today, but this book is coming out in the fall. And she was leading sessions, basically reconnecting with yourself, kind of like a shamanic journey in which she recorded the session. And then from that session's recording, I went ahead and created a story. Like, it's almost like a fictional, but it's not really fictional because it's your consciousness taking you on this shamanic journey. So it seems like that because it's your imagination, but it's truly like your own shamanic journey, or even a dark night of the soul, reclaiming pieces of yourself. So it was really cool, great project. So I was fortunate enough to be one of the individuals to have done this. And then I wrote, a story based on my experience, and it was really cool. I had a lot of fun doing it. And that book's coming out in the fall. But she's also in the other book that I'm also a part of, besides just being one of Radha's best friends and, living together and working together on a constant basis. She's also featured in these books. And Energy, Healing, and Soul Medicine is the book that we're both in. And we're going to be speaking about that today, plus other topics. And the link for that, the Amazon link, is in the description of the YouTube video. And it will also be in the description of the Portal Ascension Radio. So we'll go ahead and put it up there as well. And this book is basically different people, different authors. It's a collaboratory author set in which these writers or authors, if you will, are basically explaining what their specific modalities are in regards to assisting in the consciousness right now, what their modality is, what their energy healing is. And it's a wide range, everything from sound healing to energy work to my modality, which is Portal to Ascension, which is basically what we're on right now. Okay, so let me do the official bio here for Maya so we can bring her on. Maya the Shaman is the original creatrix of the healing modalities, Lemurian code healing, and infinite cosmic records, providing shamanic, Lemurian energy healing, spiritual life coaching, and teaching. Born in Maharlika in the Philippines, remnant of Lemuria, but we got to talk about Lemuria here. She spent most of her life in the USA as a multimedia artist in healing arts. Maya is the author of several collaboratory books, including Awakening Starseed series, Pillars of Light, the Amazon bestseller, Energy, Healing, and Soul Medicine. She shares her sovereign voice as an authentic storyteller and educator to convey her spiritual messages to the world, and uses her freedom of expression to stay on relevant topics to our time while honoring her ancestors and lineage as a descendant of the ancient land of Mu. While serving her dharma with the world, her forthcoming books are Infinite Cosmic Records, Sacred Doorways to Healing and Remembering, and Descendants of Lemuria. In contribution to transformation, Maya shares her visions and wisdom in documentary films called Guns, Bombs, War, A Love Story, and The Cure by Hollywood's French director Emmanuel Etier, produced by actress Sharon Stone. And you can learn more about Maya at mayatheshaman.com. So without any further ado, Maya, so nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Neil.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Definitely. And it's nice to see you in person. I don't think we've had a face-to-face conversation we just had the phone call, right? So this is
Yeah,
the first time that we were connecting, and it's been like I think almost a year or even more than a year since we actually connected up.
that's right. That's right. And it was a powerful experience that we have together when you enter the Infinite Cosmic Records. Yes, that was good.
Yeah, I got to listen back to the recording because it was really powerful for sure. So why don't we start with this? Why don't you tell us about your journey? You know, like, well, first of all, you said Lemuria quite a lot on there, so I want to like maybe we'll take a segment and go into Lemuria a bit later on. But what is your story? Like, how did you even wake up to this awareness? Were you raised in a family where they were open to this all the time, and you just kind of like went into it, and or did you have some sort of resistance at an early childhood? What was that actual moment for you that woke you up to the work that you're doing now?
Well, I grew up in the Philippines. I was 18 years old when I came to United States. And I go back and forth to the Philippines, but there's a feeling that I'm not 100% connected to this culture because it's so new to me in the beginning. And when I go back to the Philippines, I start missing my people and the stories I've heard. So I went very deep into searching, the mystical part of the culture. And that's when I found out about Lemuria and Mu. I kind of know it a long time ago, but I got very serious when I went back and forth to the Philippines. And that's when I start meeting the sacred land keepers of Lemuria. And the story goes in actually, if you can read it in Awakening Starseeds, Volume 1 and 2, it will tell you stories about Lemuria. And so I gathered more stories about my family, and I found out about Don Pedro, who is my great great grandfather, who is also a shaman. And from what my grandmother told me, she's really honoring him in a very deep way. And she told me that he is a very unusual being because he can fly in air, walk on water, and open portals. And after I heard all his stories about him, I wanted to know more about other people in my country. And so I went and visited this woman who is incredible. I mean, she's a real shaman too. But more importantly, she has literally told me about that this is the land of Mu. The Philippines is the land of Mu. It's Lemuria. And so when we talked about that, she has told me stories about how there are sacred portals in the Philippines that opens up underneath the earth and the ground that goes through the Pacific Ocean, and that there are links there where the kingdom of Mu has been created a very, very long time ago. And this is like the crystal kingdom of Lemuria that went underground. And, as we have known this, we maybe not everybody know about it, no? But the fact that we are not alone in this universe, and that there are so many planets in this universe where we don't usually talk about it in the older times. It's only now that it's coming up that, there are aliens. And I don't want to go deep into this, but it's just the fact that there has been a galactic war in the older times, in the ancient times. And this caused a lot of changes on planet Earth and the first beings that live here on this planet, which are the Lemurians. And so they knew the whole story, the cosmic play that's taking place. And so they went underground beyond, this surface in order to preserve the knowledge. And so that's where the book comes in. And if you really want to read about it, I have a whole story about Don Pedro and Isabel, whom I met.
And that's in the Awakened Starseeds book?
Yes, volume 1 and volume 2. So
Wow.
let me show you
Yeah.
Awakening Starseed. That's
Mm.
volume 1. and Awakening Starseed Volume 2. So I encourage everyone to check it out and see for yourself the stories that I mentioned here. It's just a brief story.
Don Pedro was your grandfather?
Don Pedro is my great-great-grandfather. I'm a 4th generation shaman.
So what were the stories? So there were stories about him basically flying in air, walking on water, and basically how does this connect to Lemuria? Because are we talking about Lemuria being a very ancient civilization, but then there were still shamanic people within the Philippines passing down these tools and techniques to basically, tap into our powers?
Yes, what I knew from what I was passed on from one generation to the next is that, our DNA is able to receive that information from our ancestral lineage. But it takes a soul that's willing to connect with the mystical aspect. And so the shamanism passes down from one generation to another, but not everyone gets to take on the information, or not willing to do the work because it takes work, And so it passed on so many generations. Nobody was there to receive that information or willing to do the work. And when it came to me, I feel that my soul is so connected to Don Pedro that even up to now, he connects with me. And it's a strange way for people to hear it, but he would knock on the walls, he would knock on the ceiling, he would knock on the refrigerator just to let me know that he is around. And then I would have to close my eyes and receive information from him. And that's how we work together.
So it's interesting you saying Philippines is the land of Mu. So from your research, did you come to any understanding of was the landmass much bigger, and then maybe some of it went under ocean? And then also a lot of people believe that the land of Mu was in the Pacific, right? And it connected to Mount Shasta, it connected to Easter Island, right? And then also to the islands off the coast of Australia. So what's your take on, the location? And maybe that doesn't even really matter, but what's your take on the Philippines connection to it all?
Well, you can see the Philippines is like broken into thousands of islands, more than 7,000 islands. You can see that it has submerged, and just little islands were left behind. And this is, Lemuria is once a huge continent of the Pacific. And in time, it just kept going down and down. And I feel that the reason for this is to actually be almost invisible to the world. And our time has come when this is now surfacing, because even my people, the Maharlikan, which is the Filipino people, don't even know that the Philippines is a part of Lemuria, because we have been conquered from one conquering to another. We have been subjected to so much pain and suffering in that country. And, the Philippines was very rich in gold at one time, and it was once the center of Lemuria, where there was a lot of trade and exchanges taking place. Different parts of the world come to exchange and trade. And so there's a lot of mixture that has taken place. And so the sacred land keepers of Lemuria, the ancient Lemurians, really truly have separated themselves from, the mix, and in this book, Awakening Starseeds, Volume 1, Volume 2, we'll talk about how when I visited Isabel, people are so scared to even go to see her because she has powers that would create sudden storm that would suddenly come. Nobody is just welcome easily in that place. And when I come to see her, when I visited her, the first thing that I saw was there was a man floating and levitating in front of her. And I asked her about it. And it was explained to me that this man has been fighting Isa since the beginning of time. And so she let him know that it's not welcome. And so she put him into a trance, levitated him, and his body was actually getting bigger and bigger, like a bubble growing. And I saw it with my physical eyes. So I know that there are these things that is mystical and magical that we don't even know, you know? So the whole point is that the Lemurians, the ancient Lemurians, separated themselves from the ordinary people because it's a very special knowledge that they have to keep it sacred and secret because of the conquerors and the many exploitations going on. So it's that is a short story about that. Read it more in Awakening Starseed Volume 2.
Yeah, definitely. And to everybody that's tuning in right now, and everybody on the podcast is tuning in, do check out the books Awakening Starseed Volume 1 and 2, right?
Yes.
And those are both on Amazon. And then also Energy Healing the Soul Medicine, which is also another book that I pinned in the description there. But I had no idea we were going to talk on Lemuria because I didn't read your bio until, and being here in like where so many people claim to have connection to the Lemurian energy is very interesting. I have a resident Lemurian in the kitchen here that claims to be a Lemurian herself. So it's really cool that we're talking about this. And I'm actually doing a conference, 2-day conference called Atlantis and Lemuria. So I think you should be part of it. I'll talk to you about that later. But I want to go into some other topics, but we still got to talk about Lemuria because I'm not done yet. What's like you said that something about portals to Mu, right? So you said it went underground, and the whole concept is Lemuria like vanished and no longer exists. But from what you're talking about, it seems that you're saying that it still does exist, and you can actually go into Earth. And does that connect to Hollow Earth at all? Because over here in Mount Shasta, Lemurian energy also supposed to be entrance to Hollow Earth.
My understanding is that the Lemurians that went under Earth have connected to other portals in different parts of the planet. And so I'm not surprised if it connects to Mount Shasta, but I cannot be 100% sure. My concentration is Maharlika, Lemuria and Maharlika, and that's what I know, and that's what I can talk about. So it's very one-pointed how I do things. And so if I don't know anything, I won't talk about it. If I have no experience or I've never seen anything with my own eyes, I won't talk about it.
That's beautiful. I feel you on that. So you said, I think you said you're a third generation shaman.
Fourth generation. Third, yes. Third generation, yes.
Can you talk about what shamanism looks like in the Philippines for the ancient people there? Or what the because there's Peruvian shamans and they deal with certain plants. And so what is the actual the energy healing modalities, I guess, of the shamans of the Philippines?
Well, in the beginning, when I was still a little girl, I know that there's a lot of healers and shamans. But because as I said, the conquering in the Philippines has created suppression in the natural healers, because when the medical world came in, it just pushed away. And, there's just so much ravaging of the culture that has taken place. It's beyond belief almost to express the pain and suffering that the natives, the indigenous people has went through in this country. The suppression of the natural abilities, intuitive powers, the healing powers, they really shut it down, and it's a sad story, but I believe that this is the time when it's coming back more into surface. It was shunned. It was, it was just covered. there is this whole thing that I believe that our planet Earth has been covered with blanket of darkness, and that is when our energy has degenerated and it lowered the frequency of our consciousness. And so, in these books that I have been a part of, it's a continuous process of explaining what Lemuria is and what happened to Lemuria, which is my country, in the Philippines, Maharlika. During the time when I discovered infinite cosmic records, because in energy healing and soul medicine, I talked about my story about how I discovered infinite cosmic records. And this was the time when, the people in the Philippines is just starting to create their country again after the World War II several decades ago. And so Ferdinand Marcos has sent his people out of the country to get jobs because, Manila was flattened by the war. There's just, the Japanese and American coming to the Philippines, bombing, and, there is no food, no plantations, no nothing. So a lot of people have really starved. I grew up in the Philippines seeing people with no arms, no legs, no ears. And, when I was a little girl, it was just a very different energy. It has changed now after a few decades. It's almost like you cannot see much of a similarity in there. But I have been a witness to all of this transition. And so, my whole story regarding infinite cosmic records was discovered when I was 17 years old. And that's when my father was out working in a sea, in a ship, and his ship sunk from a real heavy duty tidal waves, and there was a storm that came in. And that kind of put me in a total shock as a 17-year-old child. That was traumatic for me. And so all I can do is close down my portals to the world. I didn't want to talk to anybody. I wanted to only sit down and meditate every day, several times a day, and I became totally vegetarian and I fasted. So for one entire year, I didn't talk to anybody. And I believe that this is the time when my shamanic energy came in too. That's the time also when I was practicing yoga. I was just meditating and the energy shifted dramatically. By the time I know it, I'm already meditating for hours and hours, and I'm using a specific mantra that a master, an ascended master, has provided. And when I don't say the mantra, I would hear the mantra repeat back to me. So it is like a powerful attunement that's taking place. And when I would go to sleep at night, suddenly I will be taken by this burst of white light in a swirling, almost like going like a washing machine or just going through it and being taken to passing through stars, galaxies, and space, endless space. And it was just so vast and so infinite that I felt like I landed in this space of infinite love, peace, and harmony. And it was as I was just like feeling so normally loving it. I was in bliss and I didn't want to get out of that space. So that was my experience of infinite cosmic records. But the magical part of it, soon after I've experienced that, was that I noticed that my intuition was much more stronger and my third eye opened up. And without trying, I can hear people's thoughts. So I become very, very receptive, intuitive, and I can even see what will happen the next day, the next week. Like I become like, I can see the future coming in front of me. It's just like, it just comes. And then I know exactly what's going to happen. And they do happen. And so this experience has brought me to creating the infinite cosmic records, because from here I realized that if one's chakras are cleansed and clear, and I can move them through a way which is like, I move you through a tunnel. I enclose you in during your experience, enclose you into this space, where from there we open up portals. Then you yourself can actually see even your past lives. And this is like infinite cosmic records allow me to see the past lives, present life experiences, and future. So there is no limitations for being able to open up your consciousness. So infinite cosmic records in this energy healing soul medicine book really tells you a story of how we are totally multidimensional beings. That we slip, our spirit slips into our body, use this body as a container, as a vehicle, and yet to know that we can access the greater part of ourselves through our chakras. And through deep contemplation, deep meditation helps us go into that space and time. So what I discovered is really like, oh, now I know why Don Pedro can travel through space and time and do all of that. Because actually manifestation is created from very sincere, one-pointed way of being, and cleansing the mind, the body, and connecting to your spirit. So this is infinite cosmic records. This is what we're talking about in energy healing soul medicine. So it's possible for anyone to go through this experience, but cleansing is a part of it.
Right. And you see cleansing as in like releasing what no longer serves you. Is that what you mean by cleansing?
Cleansing in all levels, where, we release maybe old beliefs, old thoughts that may not be in harmony with our higher self, and sometimes those thoughts and beliefs would keep coming to us, and we will be challenged to really choose. Okay, do you really want to believe in this? Do you want to not believe in this? So we are constantly being bombarded with belief system, but you will have to find your own authentic belief through your own experience. That's where I come in. Only your own soul can really lead you to that place where you can really truly understand your higher self, the higher dimension, your being that is connected to all that is. So
Right.
this is the experience that I've had, and I'm only sharing my experience because it's powerful, and I love to share it with my clients. I love to share it with those of you who wants to read stories. I love to tell stories. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Like it was really fun doing that with you, just going guided through that whole entire experience, because I'm not very a visual person in general. Like I have a visual memory, but when people lead me in guided meditation kinds of things, it's not easy for me to follow it at times, right? So when we did it together, it was just so profound. The doors that we went through. I remember I saw a spacecraft on top of a mountain. I went into a boat and I was rowing to like this location, and I could see like when I was doing that, and I was at that state of relaxation. There was like parts of me that were just had messages for me that were basically manifesting themselves because I was allowing it to do so, right? And it was truly beautiful. And do you do those sessions for, like, you do that beyond just the book, right? You do this as an actual session where people can come to you and get these sessions online or on Zoom, something like that?
Yes, I have clients that come to me, and actually this book, Infinite Cosmic Records, Doorways to Healing and Remembering, is, I ask my clients, I ask you to write your story of our session, because I feel like I can write it myself, just like Dolores Cannon has done. But what I wanted to do is actually have my clients share what they really have seen themselves, because that is
Yeah.
another actual, actual experience by a client. I
Right.
can easily create stories for my clients. I love to create stories, in writing, but I think it's much more powerful when a client can be allowed to
Right.
show their own stories. And so I open my book, The Infinite Cosmic Records, to many of my clients to share their stories. And you will be surprised to see lots and lots of different kinds of stories in there. Really
Right.
powerful.
Yeah, I mean, when you let the client do it, you can see from their perspective. It will probably help them get clarity, because when I wrote my story about what I experienced, I got more clarity than when I was in the experience. And then you will understand the messages more. So like having it from someone that the message is for is probably the best way in order for you to really understand what happened. Don't you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it doesn't just stay at the moment. It's like a continuous process. You get more and more enlightened because the experience triggers something and activated something in you. And so your mind and your heart and your soul just wants to connect together and
Mm.
rediscover more for yourself. You
Right.
become the experiment of your own consciousness to really observe what's taking place in it. And
Yes.
that's the beauty of it, isn't it?
Yeah, that's so beautiful. So you'd mentioned Maharlika. Is that the ancient name for the Philippines?
Yes, it is the ancient name for the Philippines. And the amazing part is that one ascended master from India has said that the Philippines was once a Buddhist culture. They're all into these deep meditations and, in spiritual ways. It changed now. The Philippines now, or Maharlika, is really a Catholic country. It has really transformed tremendously.
Yeah. So we have a comment here from Divine Essence saying, I never learned about shamans in the Philippines. My family only talks about faith healers there. Love hearing about the connection to Lemurians in the Philippines. So it's beautiful, yeah, because we don't really hear too much about the ancient past of the Philippines. We pretty much, Catholicism pretty much has washed over that
Mhm.
entire country. So that's pretty much what comes out of there. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
so a lot of gratitude for you really bringing the truth about the ancient past and what happened. So
Mhm.
I'm also curious, do you have any direct contact with like Lemurian energy? Do you ever have messages or downloads or conversations with any Lemurians? Because you did mention that they went through portals, so maybe portals to other timelines, other
Mhm.
dimensions. So are they still sending signals through?
Absolutely. I feel very strongly that at a certain time, I've been called to go back and connect with these people, the ancient land keepers of Mu. And that's when
Mm.
I met Isa, and she told me that she was waiting for me, and she knew I was coming at that particular time, and she wanted me to come back. So yes, there is a very deep connection with the people, the ancient people. And Isa's father is actually the man. He's a mystic Lemurian shaman as well. He's the one that opens up the portal to the inner earth through the mountain. He can open up the portal of a mountain, and in the mountain is actually, connected to the Pacific Ocean. So
Mhm.
these are direct connections that I have. And of course, Don Pedro, he always talks to me about certain things. So, I have that direct connection with him. And it's interesting because a lot of my family members are very psychic and intuitive, but because of the Catholicism, they become very scared of it. And they would not want to keep talking about what they see, what they hear. It's like really the people there has been shut down. There's a lot
Mm.
of fear that has been created in people's consciousness. And that fear is really the biggest block that the culture have. They're afraid to talk about this, afraid to talk about that. It's shut down, So
Mm-hmm.
being here in America allowed me to really unravel what has happened in that land. And I get a perspective in both East and West. And so I can deal with it in a much more easier way than they do. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Do you ever get any insight on the culture and the day-to-day life of Lemuria?
I can tell you a story. My mother grew up in the Visayan region, which is Samar Leyte. And there is there are stories about this particular place. It's called the Invisible City, which is it's even shown in YouTube. They talk about it because the Filipino people, that's now their storytellers now too, and they wanted to unravel also slowly but surely their ancient past. But my aunt, when I was a little girl, she would tell me, there are beings from the under earth that would come up and join us and walk with us. And you would notice them and you would know that there's a certain particular thing about them. They're very tall and they're just their vibration is very different, more of a high vibe type of personality. And basically she's telling me these are the Lemurians. After I've gathered enough information from family members and stories, I kind of put pieces together. So I connect the dots, and so this is this is that. Okay, so I get you. And the invisible city that they're talking about is, from what people have been taken there, and then they would offer people, do you want to stay here? And it's supposedly a perfect place to be, like a paradise, where everything, they can have everything they want,
Right.
and people, surface people would choose whether they want to be there or not. And a lot of people who are attached to their family would say no, so they would go back to where they're at and they would tell the story. And these are very old people already that are telling stories, elders, and they said that they have been to this place. But you cannot find this city. They call it the invisible city because it won't show. From a Google map you won't be able to see it. But the funny thing about it is that they would sometimes go outside of their city to mingle with people and want to ask people if they want to live in their
Hmm.
city, and if
Whoa.
they don't force them, you know they don't force them. If they don't want to, they return them back, but their timeline is different from what I've heard people talk about it. Where the
Wow.
timeline would be much more faster in that place, and in our world
Um,
it's slower. So
Very interesting.
they will disappear for a certain amount of time, like for days, but for them when they come back they think they only was gone for like few hours or one day, something like that.
Interesting. So when people would go into wherever the Lemurians are, then when they would come back, they thought they were gone for a long time because time was going faster there. And then
Uh-huh.
when they would come back, only a little bit of time had passed in this reality.
Yes.
So that's very interesting. So I never even connected the dots that the Lemurians could be the residents of Hollow Earth inside the Earth then, right? Because I always heard about the Hollow Earth theory, but I never really connected the dots that the civilization could actually be the Lemurians that went into Hollow Earth.
Well, if the hollow earth is what I think it is, then it is. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
the perspective of people about what hollow earth is may be different from my perspective. Because
What's your
according,
perspective?
because according to Maharlikan landkeeper, the Lemurians, that they have built a crystal kingdom under the Pacific Ocean. So Hollow Earth, I don't know. See, I won't talk about anything that I don't really know very much. But
Right.
talk about something that I know from what I was told from a person that I know is authentic.
Right. So just to add to that, yeah, the Hollow Earth thing, there is people out there that say that it's a crystalline kingdom as well, right? And they say a lot of people believe that if you were to go like dig right now on Earth, you wouldn't actually be able to get there because there's certain portals around the planet that you need to go through. So when you go through these portals into Hollow Earth, it actually shifts into another dimension of the earthly experience. So if you stayed in this third dimension and you started digging and you went to the same location as the city is actually exists, you wouldn't find it. You would have to go through the portal. So I'm just connecting the dots here. It seems like there's a lot of crossover,
That's very, very smart of you. Yes.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a very
beautiful.
good observation.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for sharing. So, all right, let's we're going to close up in a few moments here, but I wanted to just hand it back to you and just want to really like have you just share, what is your intention? Why do you do this work? What do you see for humanity and where do we go from here? What is the next step in our evolution and what do you see your role as in this?
Well, how I feel and how I see is that, the dark and light has always been a part of the cosmic play. But I feel that there is a movement that's taking place. And I feel that this is the movement that we come from Creator. We are the sparks of light from God, each one of us. And we carry all the information from the universe, except that a lot of us have not really dive deep into really finding out all of this little by little because we're in this body. But it's almost like, there is a whole what a spiritual master called Brahma chakra, which is creation comes down to experience itself in so many forms, and then when it gets to a certain point in time, it comes back up and joined together. It's like a snake biting its own tail, and so the holistic part of it and how I see it is that our golden age is just right around the corner. We are coming into the space and time where we're ending the Kali Yuga, which is the age of darkness, and we're stepping into Satya Yuga, which is the age of light and truth. So there's going to be a lot of information coming out. What is the truth? What's the lies? What's hidden? All of this are surfacing out. And so we have to be very careful and really go deep into a contemplation to really truly understand what's taking place and trust that we're going into this amazing new stage of consciousness, the golden age, and that we are being prepared to do that. And also for all of us to know that this is not just our first life on planet Earth. And that's why I do Infinite Cosmic Records, where I become their guide, their shamanic guide, to let them see either their past or their present or their future. What is it for them that they needed to understand about their own existence? Why are they here and why are they living? So what is it about life and death that you want to understand? Is this all there is to life? So these are the questions that the seekers would like to ask and would like to come and understand deeper what's really meant for them to see what their purpose is. And so for me, my part of it is to be a shamanic guide and, lead you through the pathway, show you and open up portals for you so you can see for yourself while I'm there with you. Because sometimes I have other clients that have gone through spaces where they don't really want to go. It's very scary. And I will have to hold space for them. I will have to protect them and put, enclose them into this fantastic bubble of light of God. And in this new book that I am going to put out in fall, I explained how I met God, which is in the infinite cosmic records, how you can actually meet God. And this is the most beautiful experience. In spite of the tragedy, the trauma, the most difficult experiences that humans go through being in this planet Earth, it's really a very difficult place to be at, because this third dimension consists of duality and light and dark place. And it's also, if you'd like to know, it's also in our chakras. We have been encoded with dark and light. And in all our chakras, that's why we have to keep cleansing those chakras, because we have to have it connect straight up to the consciousness of God or your higher self, because that's when you discover who you are. Without that connection, people feel lost, people are depressed, people don't know what to do with themselves, people can't find their way back home. The only way back home is to understand who you are and to really go into this journey. It's a journey, it's a lifelong, eternal journey. And so it is our duty, being in this body, to just break all the blockages that we can break and open anything that we can open to understand what's in it for each one of us. What's in it for each one of us? And what are we trying to achieve here? There's something here that we all want. And that is something that we want to get to. This is what we're looking forward to. And my feeling about this is that the future is truly bright. The future is ready for those who's ready to dive deep into healing, into remembering. That's where I come in. I want to help people to do this.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. You said a few things there, but everything there were just like resonated so much. I could feel it in my heart. But definitely, the whole question of, is there more to life, right, than what we're seeing, this mundane, the systems that we're in, these constructs we create and then we play within, right? And discover who you are by releasing and connecting is what I'm getting from what you're saying. Releasing, these energies that served us for a while, but now we're shifting into something else, and then connecting to the consciousness mind, the universal mind, right? Yes. And the other thing you said, something here that we all want. That's powerful right there. We're here for a reason, right? Yeah. There's something here that we want. And these experiences that we're moving towards, it's inevitable. We're in this upturning consciousness. It's been prophesized. You can even look at the cycles of time. We're awakening, but so many different things that don't serve us are basically collapsing. But we've relied on these systems that don't serve us for so long that it looks chaotic and almost scary. That everything that we relied on, we thought the system no longer is going to be there supporting us. So right now, from what I'm getting from everything you're sharing, is that it's really time to start and create a new system. But that really starts from creating that system within us, doing the inner work that we need, reconnecting to who we are. And what you're doing is incredible, especially the infinite cosmic records, but also connecting to other parts of our multidimensional selves, right? Because that's what that experience really was for me when we had our session.
Absolutely, because we are transversing from the mundane to the supramundane. We're connecting this so that we're not separate anymore. We're no longer what our little selves thinks we are. And it's a challenge because we're constantly being pulled by the gravitational force to stay small, to live a limited life. And so it's time for us to start feeling how to expand, how to move our energy in a bigger way. And, a lot of people are afraid of that because they don't know how to handle what is a bigger way to become more of you,
Right.
People need
exactly.
help.
Right. Beautiful, Maya. Thank you so much for this amazing conversation. We went so many different directions and really insightful. I just appreciate everything you do and excited for your book to come out. So if you want to tell everybody again where they can find more information about you and also when is your book coming out? Let everybody know when they can expect that.
The Infinite Cosmic Records, Doorways to Healing and Remembering will be coming up in late fall. So probably October, sometime in October. If you want to know more about it, I can send that to you more later, because we're really putting the book together now and it takes a little time to do it. So I'll let you know more, the details of it in a month or so, but that's coming up in October.
Beautiful. And what's your website? Where can everybody connect with you some more?
MayaTheShaman.com or Lemurian Code Healing.
Oh, I like that. Beautiful. Okay, Maya, thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate your presence and just like contributing your energy and everything you do. I really just appreciate our connection. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Neil. I appreciate it too.
Definitely. And to everybody tuning in, again, the books, Awakening Starseeds Volume 1, 2, and 3 are out. Maya is in 1 and 2 with her stories on the Lemurians. And then we also have Energy Healing and Soul Medicine. And I pinned that in the chat. I put it in the description. You can go ahead and take a look there. And thank you all so much for tuning in. We're also live on the Portal Ascension Radio podcast. We're available on all platforms, so go ahead and take a look there. And we'll be live again tomorrow with actually 3 interviews. Tomorrow's a big day for us, so we got a lot going on. Love you all. Thank you for tuning in.